John Blackwell, and you're listening to The Upper Room with Joe Kelley.
It's after the hour of 7 o'clock. Joe Kelley and The Upper Room here. And the music, actually, we're listening in the background, might have been reminiscent of the classes my next guest might have been taken up at Berklee a few years ago. He's one of those rare musicians, if you ever get to see in concert. If you focus on him, he can give you the goosebumps. He's one of those musicians. He's one of a kind, a consummate musician. Currently, he is the drummer for Prince and the New Power Generation. He has toured with Miss Patti LaBelle and also Cameo, one of my favorite bands, and he is the current cover story, the featured artist on Modern Drummer magazine. And without further delay, we welcome to the Upper Room Mr. John Blackwell. How you doing, my brother?
I'm fine, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing great. And
That's good.
How things going back home?
Things are great. Things are going really well.
The family's doing real fine?
Yeah, family's fine. I just, I just got back in town to see my mom, and been zipping here and there in the country. Just got back from Boston, working on my signature stick that'll be coming out, debuting at the NAMM show in January. Beta Drumsticks is going to be selling my drumsticks in stores worldwide. So I'm pretty happy and pretty proud of that. So after I finished the deal with that, I was flew in to see my mom.
So when you go back home to South Carolina, is it business as usual, or is it, hey, here's our world-traveling rock and roll star?
Oh, no, it's good old John Blackwell.
Right.
Nothing's changed. I'm still the same person. I'll always be the same person I was. They don't look at me like that, and I'm glad they don't.
And if they go to johnblackwell.net, you got a really nice website, and you could peruse the guest book, and you can see that you got a lot of folks who are still sticking around from South Carolina, just giving you a lot of love.
Yeah, and I really appreciate all my, friends and people who just, like what I do. That's the thing, I never change, and they, some of them know, they know how hard I worked since I was a little, kid. They know how hard I worked to get to where I am now, Half of them, I probably kept them up at night because I was practicing in my living room. I wake up the whole neighborhood.
Right.
So, they know they know how much work I put into all of this.
When you're not in the studio or not on tour, do you take a break from actually playing the drums, or it's tough to take a day away and just chill?
I can't ever take a break from drums. If I'm not playing, if I'm not practicing or performing, I'm mentally practicing or I'm listening to performances. I watch a lot of videos and of people I look up to, like Dennis Chambers, Billy Cobham, and just so many others, Art Blakey, Buddy Rich. I watch a lot of those drummers, and plus I watch myself just to look at and see what I need to improve on in order to better myself, or if I because I'm in a lot of situations where I'm so into the zone of performing. I can do things that I didn't even know I could do, or I do something that I didn't, I had never done before. So I watch back and be like, wait, oh man, wind that back. Oh, I need to practice that and remember that, So
we can get into all your talents and everything, but specifically, what do you think you need to work on as a drummer?
Truthfully, I need to work on. I think mostly I need to work on Latin. That's my weak point. I need to get my Latin chops up to par. And
when you get back up to Minneapolis, you should give Esther Godinez a ring.
I should. She's a good person. She's a really good-spirited person. I like her. She's really cool. And I've gone to see her a few times at Bonkers. But I was in Boston. When I was in Boston, I went to a place called Wally's Cafe, and Thursday nights they have Latin night, and I got a chance to play with a very popular younger percussionist, Cuban player up there named Gregorio, and he showed me a few things over this past weekend, and I learned a lot. So I'm working it out, and I'm on the right track. So hopefully, no time soon. I mean, in due time, I'll have my Latin chops together.
and then look out. I mean, it's just going to be adding to your already great talents. I mean, people listening to the interview out here definitely can attest that you're a standout musician. And I wanted to right now get into talking to a guy who really influenced you, drum-wise and music-wise. Your pop's John Blackwell Sr., right?
Oh yeah. My dad is my number one influence. It's a lot of things I don't know that he's so. I don't know if he's shy or if he's just quiet. He doesn't tell me a lot of things. Like in the Modern Drummer article. The editor, the writer that did the article interviewed my dad when I wasn't around, and he called me up one day and says, "Okay, this is what I interviewed your father." And your father said, "I don't want to know. I want to wait till the article comes out. I want to read it for myself.
Right.
I want to see what he, and then, for surely I listen to it. I listen. What am I talking about? I read the article and I'm thinking to myself, man, what? You played with Joe Simon, you played with J.G. Jackson, he played with Mary Wells, he played with the Drifters. I was like, I didn't know this.
Right. You just knew he was out playing somewhere, right?
Well, yeah, I knew he had did some, some big things, but, and plus a lot of people back in the day, always used my father because, they used him in the band because his main essence and his main skills was, he was the groove master. He kept the pocket. They called him Pocket Man back then because he played the song.
Right.
He didn't. He had a lot of technique. He still has technique. He was technical, but his main purpose was to play that song the way it's supposed to be played. And that's what I want to try to focus more on, is playing what's supposed to be played, not worrying about the technical side, but at the same time, always practicing to sharpen my technical skills, because I do more than just, play groove. My father was just a groove drummer. He didn't get into swing, jazz, or fusion, anything. I'm into those things, and, but, right now, I like to just stay focused on the groove. But if I was to get called to play for Chick Corea or Mike Stearns or somebody like that, I want to be like just at the drop of a hat, switch into another personality, like a fusion personality, and just play it like I've been playing it all my life. Same thing with swing, same thing with Latin. That's why I'm gonna work on my Latin skills and get those skills up to par. Whatever style, whatever is required for whoever I'm playing for. I want to be able to do it the way it's supposed to be done. And perfect it. And one thing my dad did do is he was the groove master, and I'm still trying to catch what he had,
And he had one big record collection, right?
Oh man,
I'm kind of jealous because I was reading some of the article, and man, you had it all there.
Well, my dad, when I was 3 years old, when I started playing, my first memory, of course, was when I was 2 years old. The first thing I remembered was asking my dad for a drum set. Also, my first memory was a concert. He took us to the Sister Sled We Are Family tour, like way back when I was like a little boy. I was asleep through the whole show, but I woke up when they were singing their last song, We Are Family, and I'm looking at the drummer, and I'm looking at 10,000 people in the Carolina Coliseum, and I'm like, man, wow.
This is where you want to be.
This is what I want to do.
Right.
And, he took me to every show that came to town, and I was like, man, this is amazing. I want to be doing this one day. And he would always let me meet the drummer. The drummers were always cool, namely Raymond Calhoun from the Gap Band. I met him. I didn't get a chance to meet Yogi Horton, who was God rest his soul.
Yeah, he passed.
Yeah, he was a great drummer. He played with Luther Vandross and Ashford and Simpson. But I Yogi would always get us tickets, and we was like second row all the time. And I'm sitting there looking at Yogi, and he was playing those drums like it was his last day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he always had, you know, his aggressiveness on the drums was just, you know, it was like, whoa, you know, what did the drums do to you? Why you doing that to the drums? You just killing them. So I always try to take that same approach because I felt them.
Right.
But, you know, back to 3 years old, yeah, my father bought me a drum set for Christmas, a professional kit. Not the sets that you buy from Sears. You touch the drum head and it pops open, it busts, you know. Not one of them kind of kits. He bought me a real professional kit when I was 3 years old, and a record player. And he gave me all his old records, James Brown records, Commodore's Live double album. I'm sure you remember that record.
Oh, yeah.
And Cameos and Teddy Pendergrass, Live Coast to Coast, all kinds of records, you know. Stacks and stacks of records. Some of the records he recorded on with his group, the Mellotones, in New York City. So, and all I did was I would listen to these records, play them back and forth, learn the beats, and I would sit on the drum set as a kid, and I put the headphones on and play over what the drummer was playing. You know, whatever the drummer played on the record, I played over it, like if I was playing with the band.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's one way I learned how to play. And also another way was my dad practiced every morning, you know. Every morning he would practice. And before he would practice, what he would do, he would knock on my door, come in the room, and say, son, follow me into the, you know, living room, which is where the drums were set up. So I was like, okay. And I'd get up, and it'd be like 7, 6 in the morning, and he would practice for like 4 or 5 hours. And he would have me sit there in the middle of the drums and just watch him play. And when he finished practicing, he would give me the sticks, and he would leave me in a room by myself. You know, he didn't do like, you know, private lessons. Like people get private lessons these days. It's like, okay, this is the hi-hat, this is the tom-toms. It was like, no, you take the sticks, you discover it for yourself.
Wow.
And, you know, that's one way that's several ways I learned how to, you know, play. You know, plus whenever he did a gig that I could go to, as far as an outside gig, he would always take me to whatever gigs that he I'm sorry, man. I'm babbling. I'm nervous too.
No, that's cool. You're doing great. You know, I'm digging where you're coming from because it seems like you and I kind of listen to similar music growing up, and it's just interesting how, you know, you got into music and especially with your dad like that. How about you know, growing up in South Carolina, deciding to go up north to Berklee? When you went to Berklee, what was your initial goal? Did you say, "Hey, I'm going to go through this program and then come out and land a job with the big group," or what was your feelings back then?
My goals were to, you know, get my degree.
Okay.
And try to land a job with a big group.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly just to get my degree and hopefully make it. I always had the drive and you know, the hunger to go out and make it as a musician, but you know, I just didn't know when. And the only person who knew was the man, and you know, the big man, God. You know,
right.
He's the only one that knows, you know, your path. And I didn't know. I had no idea. You know, I was gigging one night, you know, and I'd made a lot of connections in Atlanta, namely one guy named Freddie Boy and another guy named Jimmy Lee, who was a drum teacher of mine, and another guy named Marcus Williams. And I went down to Atlanta a few times to audition for, you know, BB and CC Winans. I placed finals, but I didn't get the gig.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, Freddie Boy, says, "Oh, don't worry about it. You're going to be all right. I might have something for you." And, you know, I'm sure you hear people tell you that all the time. "Yeah, I might hook you up or something." So I was like, "Yeah, right. You got something for me." I was a little hurt because I didn't get the job and stuff. And I'm like, "Yeah, right, sure. Tell me anything to make me feel better." But, you know, here I went back to school, and I'm coming home from a gig one night, and it was like 3, 4 in the morning. A couple hours later, I get a call. I'm in the dorms. I didn't have a phone or anything, but, you know, we had a pay phone in the hallway, and somebody says, "Hey, call for Blackwell." So I go to the phone, and this Freddie boy, or actually it was my father first. My father was like, hey, you need to call this guy, you need to call Freddie boy. So I was like, okay, I'll call him. So I call him up, and I'm like, Freddie boy, you call me? He says, all right, look, here's the deal. Larry Blackmon and Cameo needs a drummer. And this was 1995, by the way. It's like, they're going on the road, and today is their last day of rehearsal. The drummer didn't work out. Do you want the job? It's yours if you want it. And I was like, well, I need to call my father and find out if I could do it. And he says, you got 15 minutes. And he hangs up the phone. So I was like, okay. So I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, hey, you know what's going on. And, my father was like, well, he said, this is what, you trained for all your life. This is what you wanted. Yeah, go, do it. So I called back, and they put me on the phone with Larry Blackmon, and, he says, can you handle this job? Can you do it? You got the skills to do it? I said, yes, sir. And next thing you know, I'm on the flight from Boston to Atlanta, and I went right on the road with him because I'm still a big fan of Cameo. And I when I was a kid, like I said, listening to all those records and playing over top of the music, I learned all of his beats.
Sure. And Larry Blackmon's a great drummer.
Yeah, he's a great drummer, and I learned all his licks. I mean, even the littlest licks that he would do, like a quick double or something he would do on the hi-hat, I learned his stuff note for note. I learned Larry Blackmon beats. I learned all of Prince's beats. I learned all of Morris Day's beats. I learned Jelly Bean stuff. I learned Billy Cobham stuff. When I listen to somebody, I listen to them, and I listen to every little nick and cranny. It's like a vacuum cleaner that picks up the vacuum cleaner picks up everything.
Yeah.
Picks up all the big trash, and it picks up the smallest dust that you can't even see. That's what I was doing with records. That's what I still do when I listen to artists like Prince or somebody, or Billy Cobham, Art Blakey, or Morris, or anybody, for that case, and so I never, I don't ever forget, I try not to. I'm not perfect, I can forget sometimes, but that's one thing that they noticed. They were like, man, you learn this stuff note for note, and so it's like, on the Cameo gig, it was just like, I said, hello, I'm John, and we played a little bit, and the next thing you know, the next day I'm on the tour bus,
And you know what, John, I went back even further than we were talking earlier in the day for Cameo. I'm going to get into it right now. Throw It Down from the Feel Me album, and we're going to get into that right now and come back and talk more with you, and we'll talk about things currently going on with yourself and what's been happening on, and we'll talk a little bit about Montreal. But John Blackwell, fantastic drummer and great person. Go to moderndrummer.com, and you can read all about John and buy the magazine, because that's what it's all about. That's just a portion of the article. And you can go right now to johnblackwell.net to get all the information about John Blackwell. John will be back in just a second. This is Cameo with Throw It Down. So the fellow who was keeping the beats for about 95 to 98, John Blackwell, and maybe he was grooving on stuff like that, and we welcome John Blackwell back to the upper room.
All right.
You like that one, right?
Yeah.
Throw It Down.
That was one of my favorite hits.
So right now, the current seat you're holding and doing an outstanding job is playing drums with Prince and the New Power Generation. I know a lot of people are very happy, and they're really enjoying your work out there. Last time I saw you, was up in Montreal at the Montreal International Jazz Festival.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to say, as a fan of Prince for years on end, that was a very, very interesting show in the fact that, the first hour and a half was an improv deal there.
Right.
And as yourself going into a show like that, do you enjoy the improv portion of that? Yeah? I
enjoy that a lot because it took me back to my, school days at Berklee. Because every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, I would play at a club called Wally's, and we would play regular songs, but we just let the music lead us to different. Every night was different. It was a different thing every night, and it was just a different journey. You know, it was just like we didn't arrange none of the songs that we did. We did cover songs. We did cover jazz songs like Chameleon and Joe Sample's 7 Years Good Luck or whatever, whatever those songs are. And we just let the music lead us, and that's how the Montreal Jazz Festival reminded me of that when we played that night, because it was just, we let the music take us where, we let the music lead, play from our hearts, which is what we do every night, arranged or not arranged. We play from our hearts.
And you were definitely a big part of that the entire show, but specifically the improv part, and that, it looked, I had good seats. My friend slept out for tickets, so I was in the second row, and you just saw the interplay between you and Prince giving you the hand signals and stuff like that. And, the band, did you love that interchange with Larry coming out and switching up with Rhonda and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about two great bass players, you know. I mean, Larry, Larry comes from, he's the original funk master, I must say. I mean, he's on the throne with James and Sly and Otis Redding and all those guys, I mean, he's history. I mean, he's a part of the history, and I'm just happy and honored that he's still doing it, and he hasn't lost a leg. I mean, if anything, he gained more.
Right.
I mean, I love a bass player. I mean, a bass player is like a drummer's best friend. As for a drummer, I mean, as a bass player, for a bass player, a bass player's best friend is vice versa. And to play with Larry, it was like, wow, and to record with him is just an honor, I mean, it's a big honor, and he has so much energy, and I feed off of energy.
Right.
I mean, if he's going to go, I'm going with him,
I don't think there's too many wrinkles on his skin either.
Oh, right.
He's looking young. Yeah.
Oh, he looks very young. He takes good care of himself.
Right.
Plus he's one of the nicest guys in the world. He's like an uncle to me, And Rhonda is another one. I mean, she's like fusion, jazz, funk, you name it, she got it. And, I mean, we can, just same as Larry, I can play with those two all night, all night, and it can never end. It's just amazing, I mean, Rhonda is, very versatile, and I look forward to playing with her more because, I know she has a lot of, original, things that she's doing, and, I'd like to be a part of her next album, hopefully. If she's listening, I would love to be on your next album, Rhonda.
I'm sure that could be worked out, right?
Yeah. We talked about it, and hopefully it's going to happen soon.
And we should mention that a guy up on stage playing percussion is also doing a little drumming. We were talking a little bit about Kirk Johnson's influence on you as being as drum wise. He was really doing it out there.
Kirk is a big influence on me. I got to give him a lot of credit. It's a must. It's priority for me to give him credit, because I don't think I could survive the gig if he didn't help me and show me how to work the electronics. Same as there's two people that was responsible for that, Kirk and Takumi. Those two really helped me out with the electronics, because that's the thing. I'm forever. I'll be forever learning. There won't be a day in my life where I'm not learning something new. I won't ever know everything there is to know about drums. I won't ever try to say I know everything, or I'm, the best at everything, because I'm not. I'm forever learning. And one thing I learned, and I'm still learning, is the electronics. Something Kirk had down pat, still has down pat. I mean, he changed when he goes through the tunes. I I mean, it's like that's a different animal, you know. It's a different animal in itself, you know, the loops, the sequencers and all that stuff, you know, the technology side of it. He had that down, and he gave me a lot of advice, and he showed me a lot of things, and, you know, I was a little, you know, I was being a little baby about it, and, you know, of course, Prince was like, yo, you got to learn this if you're going to be here.
Right.
You're going to have to learn this. Shut up. Just learn it. Because I just wanted to, you know, I just want to play drums, you know. You know, it's kind of like a thing when I have the loop there. It's almost like I'm like, you know, it's like a kid. You know, it's like I'm like a kid. I'm like, no, I want to just play by myself. I don't want the drum machine. But you know, you got to give everything a chance. You gotta give it a chance and see what happens. And I had to give it a chance. I had no choice. Mm-hmm. You know, and I checked it out. I learned it. And it's fun playing with the loops, you know. Of course, you know, I had to get myself together with my timing and stuff because, you know, and I'm still getting myself together with that because if you're not locked with the loops, you're gonna hear the difference. You're gonna hear flams and all kinds of stuff, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to look bad. I don't want Prince to look bad. I don't want the band to look bad. I want to be right on top of it. You know, I want to have somebody at an audience saying, that sounds like a drum machine, but is it? What is it him? Is it him that's playing? Well, you know, I don't want them to even wonder. I want them to just be like, oh man, drummer's killing.
Uh-huh.
But I'm playing on top of a loop. And it's fun. It's fun to do it because, like I said in my article, the loops have a lot to do. You know, like a lot of those loops are originals from the original recordings. And sometimes, you know, you have to have that stuff to you know, make the feel and make the song full. You know, I mean, a lot of times I'll try to play certain things without depending on the loop, and sometimes some songs I can do that, but some songs you have to have it. You know, because it fills up everything. You know. A lot of drummers, I mean, back in the day, drummers didn't have those kind of, you know, toys, I would say. I would call them toys. You know, like way back during the 70s and 80s, you know, the early 80s, like cats like Bobby Z, you know, they had to play. They had to play the show. You know, they had to play the show, like whatever you heard on the record. It may have been a drum machine or it may have been something, but you know, you couldn't carry a lot of electronics on the road back in the day. You had to actually say, okay, I got to learn this. That lick is impossible, but I got to learn it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Uh-huh.
And Bobby was I commend Bobby on that because he locked it down and he played those shows. You know, I mean, every Prince drummer, I look up to them. You know, I look up to Prince more than anything. You know, he's more than anybody. I look up to him. I mean, because he's a great drummer. He is a great drummer, and he's a great drum programmer. You know, and Michael Bland, that's another one. You know, he played a big role, and I learned a lot from listening to Michael. I mean, I sometimes I try to emulate. Sometimes I try to emulate his drum setup. You know, there's so many drummers, you know. I mean, Michael reminds me of Dennis Chambers a lot, and Dennis is one of my biggest influences, which Dennis's big influence was Billy Cobham. Billy Cobham's big influence was Tony Williams. Tony Williams' big influence is Art Blakey. So it's all about the drum history, you know. There's no great drummer. There's no number one drummer. There's no best drummer. Everybody has something that's special within them. Kirk has something special. Sheila has something special. Billy, Prince, Morris Day, all those guys, they have something special, you know. And so, you know, there is no number one. But everybody has an opinion. A lot of people can say, oh, man, Michael B. is the best drummer in the world. Michael B. is the best drummer that Prince ever had. Or they can say John Blackwell is the best drummer Prince ever had. They say Sheila E. Some people say Bobby Z. You know, there is no best. All of them, you know, everybody that was there and that's there now, you know, is just, we all have something that's special, and just the opportunity and the honor to share it with him, share it with Prince.
And, you guys have kind of taken a little breather after that stunning Montreal show. Oh, before we get off the Montreal show, I wanted to ask you, because in the audience, that was kind of a challenging show because, at the beginning of the improv and just not a lot of lights on stage. Can you feel on stage the crowd being a little puzzled?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad the show went the way it went.
Mm-hmm.
That's real music.
Yeah, right. I loved it personally.
That was real music. You didn't you expected the expected, but you got the unexpected.
Right.
That's how Miles Davis did back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he'd play with his back to the audience.
Right.
Miles would play with no light on stage.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other, like think about Thelonious Monk. Thelonious Monk was amazing. I mean, you'd go out, you would never know what he would do. You sit down, you're watching him play piano, and he'd just get up and start spinning around and just stand in one spot and just turn clockwise, just spinning around.
Right.
And you're sitting there like, what's next? That's a real show when you don't know what's next. When you don't know what's going on next. It's like riding a roller coaster for the first time. You get this new ride at Six Flags or Disney World, and you're like, man, okay, I know we're going to go up.
Right.
But what's going to happen when we go down?
Hey, John, we're going to get into another track right now.
Okay.
And we'll come back and talk for a little bit. And my guest is John Blackwell. This is The Upper Room with Joe Kelley. Song you guys have been included in the recent set, something new from Prince, The Work Part 1. You like playing this one?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Kind of reminiscent of those old James Brown records.
Dabble and Clyde Stubblefield,
Yeah.
As I felt, it's truly an honor to record with Prince on that,
All right, we'll come back and talk with John Blackwell. This is The Work Part 1 by Prince. And that was Prince and the New Power Generation with The Work Part 1, and we get back to talking with a really talented guy and a great guest. His name is John Blackwell. The cover story, he is featured on the current issue of Modern Drummer magazine. You can go to moderndrummer.com and John, how many autographs you've been signing on that one yet?
None.
No. But people are definitely speaking really highly and on the internet as well. You get a lot of great response from drummers as you go on tour, asking things, picking your brain.
Yeah, sometimes they ask about what am I doing with my right foot, or of course the question of all questions, how do you twirl the sticks and play at the same time? They ask those kind of questions all the time, and some things I tell, some things I don't tell.
Right.
The sticks is one thing I don't tell, even though it's not mine to keep to myself. It's just my own style. I develop my own style by watching others. So, if anything, I always tell somebody to check out Jerry Brown, who's a great fusion drummer. He's been around for years. Sonny Emery, he used to play with Earth, Wind & Fire. And Lionel Hampton, who's been around for decades. He's a great marimba player, but he plays drums too, and he's one great showman drummer. I mean, he can twirl the sticks better than anybody I know. So I always tell people to watch history, watch those kind of drummers. That's what I used to do. I see them do things that I'm still trying to catch on and trying to learn. I mean, that's how I learned a lot of the things that I do, is by listening to somebody and watching somebody and trying to do what they do. And I can't grasp what they do totally, but I end up coming up with something on my own. So, yeah.
And, we'll talk a little bit about the technical end, although I can't talk my way around that. But for the drummers out there, what kind of stuff are you looking, if at all, to add to to what you have on stage working now?
Oh man.
I guess it'll be the next NAMM convention.
Yeah. The NAMM show, and you know, it's just so much. You know, I don't know. You know, it's a lot of things that I'm trying to add on and bring to my, you know, to what I do.
And you do have the Chinese symbol behind there.
That's a long story, but I'll make it real short.
Okay.
I got that concept from a guy, two guys, two of my favorite drummers. One guy's known. His name is Jonathan Moffett. He's played with the Jacksons. He did the Jacksons Victory Tour. He did all the Madonna tours all the way up from the Virgin Tour to like Blonde Ambition.
He played with Cameo too, right?
Yeah, he played with Cameo for years. I saw him with Cameo on the Alligator Woman tour many years ago. And there's another guy named Fats Gallons out of Atlanta, Georgia, and he came to Columbia, South Carolina, to the Township Auditorium with this local band from Atlanta that was supposed to be like the star band for this local talent show that we had called. Everybody in Columbia was trying to do like New York, like night at the Apollo, amateur night at the Apollo. We had amateur night at the Township. We couldn't afford to bring anybody big time, so we brought this local band from Atlanta. Fats Gallons was the drummer, and he had this big double bass drum kit, big double bass white drum kit, and he had all these cymbals around him. But he had this tall cymbal stand, and at the top of the cymbal stand, he had this flat piece of cymbal metal, and it was so high in the air you couldn't jump up and touch it. It was like, wow. You know, of course I was real short then, so I couldn't reach up for anything. Fats Gallons was he's still around, you know. He's a very tall guy, and what he did was when he'd take a solo, he would do all this crazy stuff on the solo, but then he would do like backstroke. He would do like he would use his arms, and like if he was backstroking, and he would backstroke with both hands on this big flat piece of metal that was right behind him. And all you would hear was, and you're like, how's all that happening? And you just see his hands hitting the cymbal in the back, and it was amazing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, man, I said, and you know, after seeing him and seeing Jonathan Moffett, he used to have two cymbals behind him. He'd be playing, and next thing you know, he would catch those two cymbals at the drop of a dime, and you'd be like, wow, you know. So I started taking cymbal stands at Berklee. And I would take this big china and I'd put it behind me. And I was like, man, I said, I don't want to copy Moffett totally. I don't want to copy Fats totally. I said, let me come up with my own thing. So I would put a big china back behind me, and the thing I did different from those two was, except for Moffett, when I'm playing a song with whoever it is, Patty or Prince or Cameo, whoever it may be, Utada Hikaru, I would, instead of hitting the cymbal like on the one, like usually the drummers, they do, you know, I would do that same thing, but except for hitting the cymbal in front of me, I would twirl the stick and hit the china, whereas like if I was going to hit the regular crash, I would hit the china instead, and I would twirl the stick and hit it from behind, you know, just to add to the showmanship thing. And so that's the whole concept. And then, you know, with the martial art, I studied a lot of martial arts when I was younger, and I was also in the marching band. And as a kid, you know, I used to swing nunchucks all the time, and I always wonder, as a kid, I thought, man, I wonder how I can use this nunchuck concept on the drum set. So that's another thing, you know, because when you watch, you know, Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee or a lot of those kung fu shows back in the day where you never knew who the martial artist was, you know, shows that come on TV, and you just watching some kung fu theater one day, and you're seeing this guy hitting everybody. He's hitting everybody in front of him, and next thing you know, somebody's coming up from behind, and you're thinking, oh man, he's about to get killed. And next thing you know, he swings his fist behind his back and hits this guy and knocks him out, and you're like, wow. So that's another thing I came up with. So just having the China behind me, I just hit it from behind out of nowhere. I just hit it from behind, hitting the cymbals from under itself. And I watch boxing matches and you see a guy do uppercuts, and he would like swing his body to the side and do an uppercut. So I thought, man, what if I swing my body to the side, twirl a stick, and hit the cymbal from under bottom, in with the shape like with my arm shaped like if I was doing an uppercut, or it's just the creative side of myself, just coming up with different things. I'm always trying to come up with something new.
So when you get a bit flamboyant and step a little bit out of the pocket with twirling the sticks and stuff like that, any mishaps during concerts for yourself?
Not many. And that goes back to marching band. When I was in the marching band, now there are some mishaps sometimes, but not as much. And like I said, it goes back to marching band. My director, Willie Lyles, when I was a junior in high school, he brought in this guy named Kitchen. This was like 1990. He brought in a guy named Kitchen. I don't know his full name, but Kitchen was a part of the South Carolina State University marching band, the 101. The 101 marching band for the Bulldogs and South Carolina Bulldogs. So he was one of those old school marching band drummers, and he pushed the drum section like we were in boot camp or something, and he made it like a group. We were a team. If one guy messed up, if one guy dropped a stick, everybody would have to get down and do 200 push-ups per mistake, or do crab walks, which is the crab walk is where you have to you use your arms to drag your legs and your body weight, and we have to do that from the marching band, from the marching band room. We have to drag our body weight on pavement and grass all the way to the end of the football field and back. And that was back and forth was 1 lap. We had to do 10 laps of that. So there weren't that. After a while, you get tired of that. There weren't that many mistakes. And
any motivational tactics like that up at Paisley Park rehearsals?
Oh yeah, but I can't talk about none of that.
I'm just messing with you.
Oh well, I don't.
But I can imagine, from talking with the folks in the time and Prince and it's just your background, like you talked about the marching band, you just step right in and it's the same kind of feel, right?
Yeah. But you don't have to do crab walks or push-ups and
right.
But it would help. Yeah, it would be cool.
So I wanted to ask you another question.
You need to lose weight anyway.
How about if you had a couple weeks to go in the studio and work with a couple people you haven't worked with? Do you have a few people off the top of your mind?
Oh yeah, I would love to work with. I would love to work with Herbie Hancock, and George Duke. People like that, and I would love to work with so many people.
Yeah,
Stevie Wonder,
Whew. He's another great drummer.
Yeah, I know. Too high, too high. Yeah,
Yeah.
And
how about when you're out on the road, away from the concert? On the tour bus, you listen to radio or is it CDs?
CDs.
All
the time. I'm always listening to CDs.
Well, what's in your CD player as of late?
Hate to say it, but George Duke, Billy Cobham live in Europe, 1976. I'm always listening to that. A lot of Sly Stone. I'm always listening to the There's a Riot Going On album. That Sly album, and I'm always listening to. I've been listening to Brick lately.
Oh yeah, digging up that old funk.
Yeah, I'm listening to Brick a lot, and I'm listening to the James Brown stuff like Love, Power, Peace, 1971 live in Paris, and listening to Revolution of the Mind, James Brown, and a lot of Prince stuff all the time. I'm always listening to Prince stuff. Always listening to The Time, and Herbie Hancock. I'm always listening to that stuff, and Mahavishnu Orchestra. That's another person I would love to work with, John McLaughlin. I would love to work with him sometime.
Yeah, great guitarist. Yeah.
Oh man, and, I wouldn't mind doing a double drum thing on record with Billy Cobham and Dennis Chambers, and also Michael B. I would love to do something with those guys. And
so you just laid down the concept for a great album just now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a lot. It's so many others that I could name. I'd be all night saying who I would love to work with.
Right.
But those are the main ones. I would love to work with those guys.
So you got a couple weeks off the road and getting mom's cooking, right?
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was always picky back in the day.
Okay.
And she knows what to cook and what not to cook. Because there's some things I don't deal with the porky pigs and nothing like that.
Right.
And lately I haven't been touching no beef or chicken.
Right.
It's been vegetables and fish now.
Yeah.
So because that's always been my favorite anyway when I was a youngster. My grandfather was a fisherman, so that explains a lot,
How do you deal as a musician on tour? How are you, and what I know with Prince, I mean, it's a sometimes grueling trip out there as far as the schedule. How do you deal with that and keeping fresh?
Fresh as how?
Sleep wise, and is it tough for you?
If I can't go to the hotel and sleep, I'll sleep in the dressing room.
Okay.
Because one thing for me, there's several things that I do to get myself prepared for stage. One is, I'll take a nice hot bath before I go to the arena and just try to release any stress that I have. I also stretch a lot, and there's another thing. It's very important for me to get sleep, at least 2 hours of sleep before I do anything, and that way when I come on stage, I'm fully charged. It's just like I come at the drums like if they owe me $20. And that's how I keep. That's one thing. That's one way of keeping fresh. You have to take care of yourself on the road. You can't just eat anything. You can't just do anything. You can't stay out all night and be crazy or whatever. And I don't do that stuff anyway. So.
But I'm always. I was saying I'm always amazed. Like a Prince tour, you guys do a show in one city and do a little party at the club that night, and the next city you're doing a show and keeping up that same pace.
Well, if you have, I'm very thankful for fans and people that come out to the show. So yeah, it's always, that's one thing I'll always say. Okay, I can sleep later. Go here and shake fans' hands and talk with them and stuff. And I mean, it's just like I talk with them like I talk with anybody, my friends or anybody, like that. They're just, I'm just like them. I'm no better than nobody. I'm not on a pedestal or nothing like that. I'm just like anybody else.
And if you
I hang out and talk and but that's about it. And then after that, and then I go back to the hotel and I get sleep, and I still get enough rest.
So on the past,
ready for the next day.
On the past year, you played some really nice places. Do you have a few that stick out in your mind, whether it be crowd-wise or sound-wise for the venue?
Wow. The Montreal was one.
Right.
It's Atlanta was another place. Minneapolis was one. Paisley's always cool. Doing the Friday night thing. and San Jose show, the San Francisco shows. Those are some. Those are a few of the shows that stand out for me. You know, I just have so much fun. You know, and it just be one of those nights. You know, the Milwaukee show was a cool show, also.
And if we get
the crowd, the crowd all the time, the crowd is always. There's not a night where the crowd is not into it and supportive. You know, and just having so much fun. That's an every night thing. You know.
And if we get things lined up right, we'll hope to get you out to the arena in Bridgeport, Connecticut here. So that'd be real.
That'd be nice.
Yeah,
you know.
They got the new arena, 9,000 seaters. So I'm sure you guys could fill that up real fast.
Well,
yeah.
I take every. You know, just it'd be nice to do it. You know, just hopefully it'll happen. You know. Sometime soon, you know, hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the next couple of weeks you're going to be chilling with the family, and
yeah.
What do you have planned coming up the rest of the year? More music. That's
more
guaranteed.
Music.
Yeah.
That's the best I can put it.
Right.
More music, and you know, if that's the case, then that's the rest of my life question right there.
Right.
Music, you know.
And once again, I'd like to direct the listeners to visit your website. It's a real nice website with a guest book, and I know you go on the internet and check things out. So you probably respond to a few of the fans out there. John,
I respond to everybody.
That's
know.
Right. Okay.
Some names, you know, they don't have the email callback or anything, but everybody that I'm able to get to, I always thank them. You know, because you know. I appreciate the support.
So his website, johnblackwell.net, and also you can pick up Modern Drummer magazine. Great cover story there, and Prince even talks a bit about the drums in there, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You know, you have to read the story. I can't
right.
give nothing out.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
I said, some things I can say, some things I can't. There's a lot of things I can't say, and
yeah,
you know,
people just go by the magazine. And,
buy the magazine.
Yeah,
and
support some really nice music publications, and you know, I want to thank you, John, for all your time, and you know, if you're in the New York City, Connecticut area, and you got a free moment from a tour, or you're down here recording or something, just come on by our new studios, which we're going to be debuting end of September. So.
Okay. I appreciate that. I'll definitely drop on in when I have a chance to.
And I'm sure I'll be running into you at some concert in the near future.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just much respect to you, and
thank you.
And keep on that great music and great playing. And I've enjoyed the talk with you.
I enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
You know, it's always a pleasure. You know, so thank you.
So we got to go out. We got to go out with a couple of 80s style music of groups of which you participated with. So I got lined up Cameo Flirt, which was, for me, I got started in DJing around 1982, and this album was kind of like an aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
You play this, and the girls start calling out. So,
well, I was too young for all of that.
Oh, okay.
Nobody was calling my house. If anybody called, they said, "Did you see the Bugs Bunny cartoon just now?"
Yeah, right. Well, we're only about 10 years apart, but still, this album, we both really love this Alligator Woman album.
Oh yeah, well, Alligator Woman, the song itself is
right.
It was like my first time ever hearing a funk band go on that edge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, besides Prince, you know, they were another one. You know, they went on that rock edge. You know, and just like you were like, whoa. You know, I believe that Alligator album had a lot to do with a lot of the rock and roll stuff that I heard in the later '80s and even now. You know. You know, that song itself was just really, it was very influential to a lot of people.
So you enjoyed playing it live with Cameo?
Oh man,
yeah.
I used to beg them, please play Alligator Woman, and you know, I got a chance to play it a few times, and Larry Blackman, when he plays live, he plays fast. You know, it's not like the record. You think it's gonna be a cool tempo. Larry comes out, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're like, okay, I can't move my hands that fast, Larry. Come on now.
and
fast.
Yeah, there's another song which Prince and the NPG have been kind of reworking it, and it's a real nice style, which you've been doing live, the Ballad of Dorothy Parker, which a lot of people saw you on the Jay Leno show doing.
That's one of my favorite songs.
How has it evolved, in which the style it is going now? And maybe by the next time you guys get together, it's going to be a different one. But
well, that song had a lot to do with what you're hearing today with the hip-hop and all that stuff, you know.
Right.
A lot of, I mean, and even a lot of, you hear a few guys credit him, like, you know, and they should credit him, you know, because, you know, he was influential. That song was ahead of his time, you know, and it's still fresh to this day.
Yeah.
You know, Amir Questlove, he admits it. Timberland admits it. You know, I mean, that song influenced a lot of people. I love playing it because it's a challenge, just like 79311.
Oh, yeah.
That track, I try my best to play that closest to the record as possible. And Battle of Dorothy Park is another song that I try to play as close to the record as possible because it's a challenge. You know, I like challenges.
Yeah, I'd love to see you guys stretch out on a full length 777-9311. That would be smoking. Yeah.
But that's the Times job.
Yeah, that's true.
Need that to do.
Yeah, Jelly Bean does it right. So, yeah. But all right, we're gonna listen to Cameo and also the Ballad of Dorothy Parker and thank John Blackwell once again. And thanks for being such a nice and talented guy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right. This is the Upper Room with Joe Kelley.